In times of trauma and adversity, we must create space for connection by sharing a story of hope. Welcome to Stories of Hope Worldwide, hosted by Kerry Atherton. This podcast shares inspiring stories of individuals who have faced significant challenges and emerged stronger, offering hope and resilience to listeners all over the world. Join Kerry, the founder of Stories of Hope, every week to hear these remarkable journeys and find strength to overcome your adversity. Now, let's listen in to this week's conversation.
Welcome to another episode of Stories of Hope Worldwide. I'm Kerry Atherton and I'm your host, and today's guest is Liam Knight, NRL player who came out and went public about his very private battle with drugs and alcohol. Welcome, Liam.
Hey, how are you, Kerry? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on today. It's such an important topic, isn't it? And it's one that so many people in Australia struggle with. I'm sure, not only NRL players, but so many. And it is, in fact, the leading cause of mental health problems amongst men in Australia.
Yeah, it's definitely something I struggled with for a long time, more admitting some problems and, owning up to what was going on in my life and the struggles that I had on and off. And there was always a recurring thing that was bumping up in my life.
I just want to say how brave I think you are for coming out. And something that you said is, I just want people to hear my story because I want them to know that there is help out there. I wish I'd done this sooner. If I can help one or two people, that will make the story worthwhile. And I just love that. And I mean, I've been where you're at and we've talked about this because I met you in Hamilton Island.
Yes.
And I was with my family, and I don't know how the conversation got going, but I shared with you that I did a lot of work with men's mental health and was an addictions counsellor. That was probably around a year and a half.
18 months.
How badly were you struggling then?
That had been a bit of a reprieve at that time. I just finished a season where I was struggling a little bit. I was it was very seasonal for me. Like if everything was going well, or footy was going well, I'd be okay. When the off season started, it's when all these little things started swirling around in my head. I'd have a lot of time. I had a lot of outlets that weren't there anymore. I'd sort of pick up other things, partying scene and that kind of stuff. So at that time, I was actually not too bad. The torture that I was going through that year with a couple of head knocks and the season finishing was okay. And I was on a holiday in Hamilton Island. It was after that when I had back-to-back surgeries. When I saw you, I left. I had 3 surgeries consecutively.
Wow.
So that was, in and out of hospital and a lot of prescription painkillers and that kind of stuff. And then it sort of stemmed from there, sitting at home and just in pain and, the whole cycle of all of that sort of started a bit more.
Yeah, and I guess the uncertainty of what did the future hold?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time sitting down and a lot of doubt, fear, a lot of things going on and a lot of pain, just not being that's not exactly a nice environment to be in. And I, it's the life I've chosen, and it got to me a little bit. So when I got out of that, sitting at home and being in that state, it was just like full guns blazing. I'm out on my feet, I'm going out, and then that's when it sort of picked up a little bit more.
Liam, how hard was it to come out publicly and you spoke to the Daily Telegraph?
Yeah, it was a strange, when I first got the call about it, I said no. And that sat with me for a little bit, and I just, like I sort of stated, if my story can help one person, I'm happy to do it. So I was really nervous and it was a bit of a weird feeling. And it didn't really hit me till it actually came out. When it actually came out, then it was real. I talked about it and I saw the edit. But when it actually came out and people were messaging me about it, that's when it became really confronting. I had a few days there where I felt really exposed, obviously, and I felt sort of publicly vulnerable and people knowing about what was happening, and it was a very strange feeling. One I dealt with, and I knew what I was doing. It wasn't like I slipped and opened my mouth. So I was all planned and stuff like that, and it was for a reason and a purpose. But it definitely did strike me when it first came out.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing, isn't it? When you're living in the public eye, it's really hard, isn't it, when you've got a private struggle going on, to actually keep that to yourself. But I think what you've done, and something that I do with my books and my latest book, is sharing the stories of 15 men who lay themselves emotionally bare on the pages and share everything that's going on in their life. The reason that I did that, and I'm sure I know what your story is going to do, is it gives other people that are struggling with the same thing, the permission to be able to open up themselves, it really saves lives. It really lets other people know that they're not alone, because the journey of addiction is such a lonely one, isn't it? I know.
Yeah, it really is. And obviously for me personally, the mindset I got in at certain stages, like paranoia and the lack of trust for everyone and the stories you tell yourself and the isolation that you create due to these things that are going through your head as thoughts that become so toxic and poisonous. For me, it was it became a lot to deal with. And it got to obviously a certain point for me to ask for help. And like I said, I wish it happened sooner. And I really want to help break some sort of stigma around it that men can't talk. And I don't know, it's just men, obviously women, but I think women do talk a bit better than men. From what I've seen, it's a big male dominated thing.
I know, and I totally agree with you there. And that's why I do a lot of work with men and mental health. I've worked with a lot of in schools, for 12 years on the Sunshine Coast, and worked with a lot of, boys that just feel like they can't open up, and walked alongside so many men in the 12-step program. Obviously, we open up in there because it's a safe space, but outside, it's still such a scary space to be able to talk about how you really feel, especially as a guy.
Yeah, it's really not easy. Like even right now, I'm uncomfortable having this conversation. If I'm not comfortable with it, but it's sort of like a necessary evil for me. Like I'm not comfortable talking about it. I'm not exactly comfortable that people know, but if me being uncomfortable can help, like a one person, two people, whatever, how many people, I'll sit here in my sweat, in my black shirt, and I'll cop it, and I'll walk away and refresh and reset.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. It means a lot to me because, obviously I want to reach a lot of people. It is really all about the one person, and that one person that's sitting alone thinking that there's no help and nobody understands. Liam, when did you first realise that you had a problem? As I often see as an addictions counsellor, and they talk about in AA that it's really the disease of denial. And often we blame all the situations around us, people, places, things. If only I can sort all that out, then I wouldn't have a problem with drugs and alcohol. But did you realise at a point along the way that maybe you had a problem?
It took a while, hey, like, 'cause like, my whole life, it was always, like, a fun thing, and there's always, that release, and then, like, my story was I needed it, like, it was, like, my thing. There wasn't even a thought, like, "Oh, yeah, this is what I'm doing, this is what my life does, my weekends and stuff," and then when I realized maybe end of 2019, maybe start of 2020, maybe the end of 2020, a couple more surgeries and stuff, and, a bit of use and then prescriptions and that kind of stuff, and I was just sort of wallowing, and then the footy season rolled back around, so it'd be okay. I'd be back to normal. Like, well, that was just a weird period kind of thing. Didn't really know what happened. Got out of that. That's fine. Everything's smooth again, and then like I said, it was seasonal for me. So when the season finished and I could hide, I didn't. It just felt like two different people. My soul. So around that time was probably like realized that this is a bit weird. As my relationships changed with that sort of drugs and alcohol. But, I didn't really know how to talk about it, what was going on. It was more just like, "Oh, that was different," you know?
Yeah.
"That's alright, back to footy now, everything's good, everything's fine."
And I liked how you talked about that before. You talked about when you were injured and you couldn't play, like that footy and exercise had been a natural outlet for you.
Yeah.
That's something, when we're recovering or trying to look after our mental health, that is so important to have those self-care strategies, but the positive ones.
Yeah.
When you used to drink, could you stop at one?
This is probably the thing I struggled with, like, accepting, 'cause I originally thought alcoholism, what it's like someone drinks every day. I have had instances very, very rarely. There's no point for me, like, I just didn't see the point, like, why would I have one drink? I wanna have 30 drinks. I could have a glass of red with dinner and then go to bed, but I'd be into bed like, "Wow, I just want another drink." Like, I just wasn't ever and I couldn't sleep, like, I wouldn't sleep well at all, and I'd just be up. Or awake and ready, like, I don't know, but yeah, like, very rarely, and I just didn't see the point in it. My whole mentality was like, I'm either gonna have 100, or like, so to speak, or just why would I drink? There's no point. I just wanna go.
Yeah. Can you take us back to that day in Byron Bay on the 21st of October when you had your last drink and when you
It
ran
was
your
in Bali. It was Bali.
Bali, was it? The Telegraph said Byron Bay.
Oh, no, it was Byron Bay, then to Bali.
Oh,
So,
okay,
like, it was like
yeah.
a big it was like that was sort of towards the end of it, where Byron Bay was a very big few days, and then I went
And
straight there to Bali. It was like, there was always a release for me. That was what it started off as a kid. I think, not kid, when I was younger, and then I was in Bali and I was drinking, and nothing would change. I was numb and I was just not in a good place. I was around people, and it was just paranoia in my head and numbness, like emotional numbness. Feel like just nothing was really that good. I wasn't really enjoying myself. Putting on this front for my mates I was with, and I'd drink and nothing would happen. I keep drinking, and nothing would change. Like, everything wasn't changing anymore. And I just got worse and worse. I wake up the next day, I couldn't sleep, and just like got a really low place. I came back from Bali and I was just in, yeah, like a really low place. And I was sort of, I wasn't sleeping. I was having like half panic attacks, and so I was on the prescriptions, and I just didn't know what else to do. Like, there was nothing was working for me. And yeah, that's when my thoughts started getting, spiraling a little bit more. And yeah, and I got to a place where like I'd never really been. And yeah, some thoughts I just never had before, and that's when I sort of got really scared and asked for help.
were they, thoughts of ending your life?
So I never got to far as like I just thought I don't wanna do this anymore. Was my thought. Like, life just nah, I just don't feel like it. This is enough. I've had enough. So I just don't like where I'm at, and it doesn't really seem like there's a way out.
Yeah,
Never sat there and contemplated more. Yeah, I just don't. I've had enough.
yeah. And so when you were talking about the paranoia, can you explain, for people that are wondering, what were you paranoid about?
Paranoid that people would know what I'm thinking about, like hiding. I've had a big night or a couple of this or that, oh, they know they know they're gonna try and get rid of me from the club, or they're not gonna like me because I've done this, and it was just, yeah, strange things like that. I'd struggle with looking people in the eye because I think they know what I'm thinking, and,
Know who you are? Ma
yeah.
by you because you're in the public eye?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, mainly my mates too, at training and stuff like that, and other people. I was really anxious all the time because I had these thoughts just continuously spiraling. I couldn't control it, and then I'd just go and either drink or do something else, just to try and get rid of it. And I
Okay.
just kept chasing this peace of mind that I could not get. Yeah, and I was having panic attacks at night, and it was just, yeah, it was a really stressful time.
I don't know if you've heard this in the rooms of AA, but I've heard it plenty of times before that alcohol or the substances is like your best friend, and then in the end, it turns its back on you.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. Mine was like the liberator becomes the jailer, everything that was good and fun, and it was, a useful tool for everything, and it was all great. And then, yeah, the relationship changes and it becomes, you
Yeah.
become in a jail of that substance.
Yeah. Great analogy, and it just stops working, hey? You
Yeah,
feel like it's gonna do what it used to do for you, and then it just doesn't work anymore.
yeah. And sometimes, like, I was still having fun. Like I'd say, but before that period, I was good, and then you drink, and then whatever else comes after that, because it's not never just drinking and spiral the next day, and then the next, and then yeah, it wasn't. It was just a really, yeah, savage spiral.
So you reached out to your coach,
Yeah.
and what did you say to him?
I said, I think I said I'm in a really bad place. I think I need to go to rehab and get some help. And I just sort of said it and just waited for his response, and like really sort of fearfully. And yeah, he just said, "No, that's great. That's great." Which
Wow.
everything, yeah, it was. I couldn't believe what he said and how he said it. And I was waiting for, like, people say things just to make you feel better. I was like waiting for the look at his face to, like, maybe he's like rolling his eyes, or he's disgust in his face or whatever it was. And he was like, "Mate, yeah, it's awesome. I'm really proud of you. Like, it's a big thing to ask for help." Some guys wait till they get to the end of the careers, and then their whole life ends. They ruin their lives. And it was just a really important chat for me.
Well, what a
But
great coach.
yeah, he's a really good man. Yeah,
That's awesome. So you went to rehab.
yeah,
When you shared with the Telegraph, you were talking about the fact that while your mates were running drills on Redfern Oval, you were just down the road battling your demons in the rehab.
yeah. So I missed the start of preseason,
Yeah,
which was, another big thing for the club to sort of. They could have just said, "No, we need you at training." But yeah, and I had had surgery too, so I had, rehab training that I was expected to do, but I needed to do for myself. Obviously, if I wanted to get back play, it's not exactly like a little scratch. I had a big surgery, so it was just the flexibility and the way the club helped me work around it while everyone else was training and stuff. Yeah, it was pretty surreal.
So, Liam, what was it like? I mean, people that we know because we go to AA,
Mm.
but people often wonder what it's like, and we see on American TV that they sit around in a circle and, "Hi, my name's and I'm an alcoholic," but what was it
Uh,
like saying that for the first time in a meeting where you knew there were people who actually understood what you were going through?
To be honest, I remember the first time I said it, I just said it because I had to say it. I didn't actually, when I first got around, I knew I had an issue, but I wouldn't identify as an alcoholic or an addict or everything else. So I was just saying it because everyone was saying it. And then the more I learned, and I was like, whoa, like, yeah, maybe, yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. Like, it's weird.
Bit of denial, were you?
I was, yeah, I was. I knew I needed help, but like my reservations were, I just need to get some things sorted, I'll come out of rehab and it'll be different. I don't know. It was, it's just a constant evolving journey in there for me. But when I first walked in there, it wasn't a circle. And there are some obviously meetings that have circles. This one, everyone walked out the front and then we stood up in front of 30 or 40 people and started telling their story. I could not believe what was going on.
I know.
And some people tell some hectic stories. And then I was asked to share my first meeting. I walked out the front of this room and the lights were beaming on me. It just felt like I was in the middle of the stage surrounded by 1,000 people. And I got so anxious and I barely said, I don't remember what I said, but I spoke and then sat back down, a nervous wreck and dripping in sweat, just going, get me out of here. And then it gets a bit better the more you talk and the more you share with people and you hear stories and stuff.
Don't you reckon when you come out of those meetings, no matter how hard or bad it is when you go in, you always feel so grateful, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Even if, some days when you don't want to go, you just go and you just walk out, you hear one thing that, maybe resonated and makes you grateful for where you are now and where you're going.
Liam, what was your greatest light bulb moment? It's a big question, isn't it?
It's a very big, vague-ish question. Like,
So it's a surprise question.
my biggest light bulb moment. When I sat back and really reflected on everything in my life based around drugs and alcohol, I'd never ever I realized what it was for me, like my relationship with it, what it had given me and taken me. And the biggest, this one thing someone said, like, it's never going to leave. Like, if you don't want to live a better life and a different life, be like sober, then like it's always going to be there. The pubs aren't closing, bottle shops aren't closing. Like, if you want to do it, it's always going to be there. But like, you make a choice to sort of try and make your life better and be the best version of me. I'm going to have a crack at it. Like, that was the biggest thing for me. Like, obviously I could go have a drink tonight and it's all over, but like, I don't want that life. And I didn't want what happened to, like, the headspace I was in. And my biggest light bulb was I just want to choose to have a clearer head and a better conscience and live with integrity and not have to lie to people and hide my emotion.
That's awesome. So you've been sober since October?
Yeah, almost 5 months now.
Wow, that's so great. When I got sober, I was 18.
Wow,
Yeah, I know.
that's young.
I know. There was one other girl younger than me in the program at the time. Prospect at that age of not drinking again or not taking, any mood changing substances was very overwhelming. The thought of, my party days are over. What's life look like? Going to meetings, going to the movies, going, was like, is that as good as it's going to get? But I got to the crossroad like you, and it ended up for me that it was death or sobriety. I knew then that if I wanted to see my 21st birthday, I could never drink or take anything again, one day at a time.
Yeah.
And now it's been like 41 years.
Wow, that's amazing. Well done.
Thank you.
That was the biggest. Yeah, I had my identity for myself was like, it's just when I play football, like weekends I have a beer. If I don't, but it was like an identity thing for me. I want to go out, have fun, and that's the only way I could have fun was to drink. And it's just, it's too much of my life to take away if I didn't do that. It's just too much, which is obviously just a story that you create to feed that part of you that is get something out of that whole ordeal or whatever it was. But now, like I said, almost 5 months and my life's great. I love my life. I can still go out sober. I do sometimes, but I don't really like hanging out with drunk people when I'm sober.
I know. Oh, I know. You just, oh my goodness, get me
Yeah,
out of here.
Yeah, it's not exactly a fun environment after a couple of hours when they get drunker, it's just,
I
doesn't
mean, you used to
exactly.
be those people as well, like
Oh, yeah, I would've been worse, I wasn't a good drunk at any stage, so, yeah, it's
have you got
interesting.
supportive mates? Because obviously, one of the things that they talk about, and that does have to happen in a lot of situations, is getting rid of old environment. But it's a bit hard for you, isn't it? Because you're working in your old environment, so to speak. So how do you manage that?
Yeah, everyone in my life has been really supportive, based on what I've talked about, where I was at. It's not exactly I wasn't, like, mucking around, "Oh, I'm gonna come out of rehab and just fall back into old habits." It wasn't really what I had set out to do. And the club I'm at, with the boys and the coaching staff, everyone's, it's pretty amazing, to be honest. Everyone's just on their own little path and very accepting, and we've got a great culture, so that just sort of fell into place for me. And I don't my mates are still drinking and stuff like that, I just don't go,
Yeah.
or, they don't try and drag me, or, like, I don't get messages about, having a go at me. Even if they do, I wouldn't care, I wouldn't phase me. I'm not, that's not really skin off my back at the moment, so but yeah, everyone's been really supportive.
That's great. What would you say to the many people that are out there who are struggling with this in silence and really feeling the shame? Because there is still so much shame attached from the outside towards people with addictions. And it's something that I'm so glad, and I thank you so much for having this conversation today, because it's really something that needs more discussion. Especially, as I said in the beginning, it's the leading cause of mental illness in men around Australia. And so, what would you say to the many people that are actually struggling with drug and alcohol abuse behind closed doors?
The whole shame thing got me. I was ashamed of myself. That was the biggest thing with from before. I was judging myself, calling myself certain things. That's what probably the thing that stopped me from talking up. On the way to see my coach, I was ashamed. I'm like, he's gonna be, he's gonna hate me or whatever. The biggest thing is, I don't know, just you talk once, you speak up once. All you gotta do is one time, and then it's out. And once it's out, and you keep talking about it. The more you talk about it, the better you feel. And then there's this whole society of people in life that you wouldn't even know. You probably walk past them in life, and then they go to meetings and they talk about their issues like crazy people, what I thought, but like they're just normal people trying to better their lives. It's pretty inspiring, to be honest. And they talk and they talk, and maybe you don't talk for the first however many meetings, and people tell more stories, and you hear similarities of your own story. And the more you talk, the better it feels. But you got to do it once. You just got to start, and it's really hard, really, really hard. I was shaking when I was on the way there. But you tell people what you're doing and you put things in place so you can't go back on it. And I just want to live a life of integrity. So that was how I started.
That's awesome. Just take that first step.
Yeah, the first step's the hardest, but people are way more understanding than you think.
Yeah,
Like I was shocked, especially in a world of football where everyone has a beer. It's a big drinking culture. It's not forced on you, but it's where we're in society where everyone wants to drink and have a good time. That was my big. I'm a football player. I can't not drink. Or whatever else it was. I was afraid of. It was keeping me from speaking up, and it was just too much to bear.
yeah, that's great. Now you're a trailblazer.
Now I'm trying to do some stuff,
Yeah,
trying to help people that were where I was because I can. Hopefully, I can.
that's great. And something I always say, whenever I'm speaking, or is that, despite what we do, despite how much money we earn or who we are, at the end of the day, when the lights go out and we're all alone, we're all the same. We're all emotions in skin.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Hard for
really,
yourself to feel a
really
lot.
strips the shame away, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So what does the future hold?
good question. I don't know. I'm very committed to my club right now, football. Still coming back from injury, so my main priority is that. Other than that, I'm trying to build up other parts of my life that I haven't really worked on, relationships with friends and other interests outside of football, which I never had. I didn't want them because football was everything, and it still is. Like it's obviously a massive part of my life and my main priority, but just building up other interests and trying other things, career wise, talking to people, networking, seeing what's out there.
Might be
Yeah.
doing speaking down the track, hey?
Yeah, maybe. I'd love to do that, if I could figure out how to say things.
People just want you to be authentic, which you are.
Yeah. I'd love to do that, to be honest. I've sort of talked to, my club about if I could talk to some kids at school, high school kids, and
That'd be
maybe share my story. And, I've had an interesting upbringing as well, so interesting to say the least. So I could maybe relate a little bit to that, and just, there's a lot of hope out there, a lot of people out there that want to help, and a lot of really, really good human beings that, you don't have to lose hope and just follow dreams.
Oh, that's great. Well, if I can help you help open any doors, happy to do that.
Yeah, awesome. I really appreciate it.
So, Liam, on the last question as we close up now is, and this is a big question as well, but what's your message for the world?
Oh, what's my message for the world?
And everyone with that same reaction.
Yeah, I think maybe just to stop living don't live in fear, and just find something that you really, really care about and you want to do, and just do it. It doesn't have to be massive. For me, I was lucky enough to find football that I really loved, and I just did everything I could to do it. And it did come at a cost, mentally for me over the years. But it's also sort of saved my life, I think. So just find something you really care about and you love to do, and just figure the rest out. Just commit to it, and maybe it'll work out.
Thanks, Liam. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I know your story's really going to help so many people out there, which is what you really wanted to do with coming out. So appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Stories of Hope Worldwide with Kerry Atherton. If this conversation helped you, please consider sharing the podcast with a friend or leaving a rating and review on your podcast player. If you'd like to find out more about Kerry Atherton, head to storiesofhope.com.au, where you can purchase her books or find her next event. Check the show notes for links and information about our guests in this episode, and remember, you don't have to walk your path alone.